Our next panel is on public relations. So you have an awesome game and now you want to tell the world about it. So what is the best way of going about doing that? To answer that question, I have to use three experts. We've got Caroline Miller, Will Freeman and Stefano Petrullo. So please take your seats. I think I feel like I'm religious getting a sermon.
You guys will take these, and I'm going to try and be louder. This between us. Yes. Low five you, high five speakers. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to start. Why don't you start just by introducing sort of who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Will Freeman. I'm a contributing editor of Develop magazine and a freelance journalist, so write for quite an array, The Guardian, The Observer, Eurogamer, places like that. So yeah, one of those old-fashioned dinosaur journalists that uses words.
Hi, I'm Caroline Miller. I'm the founder and owner of Indigo Pearl. We're a PR agency. We've been around for 16 years in video games. Sorry. Oh, award-winning, yes. Yeah, we do lots of indie games. We do stuff with Devolver. We work with Mike Bickle, people like that. Do lots of events. So yeah, I'd like to think that we kind of work with a lot of you guys here, and you know, all kind of smaller companies really.
I'm Amit Chi. I'm an ex-journalist, and I work in PR since 1997, and recently left my position as senior PR manager from Ubisoft UK to start up my own consultancy on PR. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Launched Assassin's Creed? And
yeah, Assassin's Creed. I launched 6 Assassin's Creed, no, 7 Assassin's Creed, 7 years. Far Cry, Watch Dogs, and yeah. So I work basically on almost all the IP Ubisoft released in the last 7 years, together with my team.
You've heard of any of them?
Never. So, okay, I'm going to start with you, Will. Let's say I'm an indie developer. I have no history. I've never released a game before, but I've made one now. It's on iOS or Steam, and I'm trying to get some attention from the press. How do I approach you?
I guess one of the really basic things to remember is that before we talk about exactly how or where and what context you contact us press, most people, all people I think that are games journalists are people that feel very enthusiastic about games. It's not really the kind of career you fall into, and if you're not interested in games and enthusiastic about games, then it'd be a ridiculous position to be in. So we really are approachable. And you know, we can talk about later whether that means at events or via email or through social media. But I definitely sense sometimes a kind of meekness about hassling us press. And you know, in the end, we need you guys a lot more than you need us. I need to know about. I pay the rent and put food in my mouth by knowing about games. So to stay alive, I need you guys to be approaching me. So I guess, you know, on for ages about the various ways of approaching press, and maybe we'll come back to that. But just as a core thing is that we are approachable and we need you, so don't feel tentative or meek about approaching us. And just as a slight extension of that, you know, as a freelancer when I'm pitching in articles, indie is so interesting these days. That's perhaps a strength, the fact that you're kind of small and agile and not AAA. So, you know, it's something else not to be meek about. We are wanting to write about the kind of work you do, and we need you guys to approach us, so just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I asked a lot of, basically I asked a lot of press this question recently and have pages and pages from them in reply. And it's what Will said really, it's kind of, you know, they're really interested in games, they're interested in you. Don't be weird. Was one of the kind of one replies. You know, we'll put it in on it. You know, and yeah, I think we're going to kind of move on to kind of social media and events and all of those things. But you know, make it easy, make it concise, make it, you know, videos. You know, make sure your website tells everybody. You know, like don't make them hunt for stuff. You know, be contactable. It's all really common sense, and I think a lot of what PRs do is just very, very common sense. If you stop and think about it, from the press's perspective, and start to think of press as, you know, real kind of gaming fans, and talk to them like that, then, you know, you're halfway there.
Yeah, and one thing that I can hook with the previous speeches about preparation. I mean, first of all, journalists are human beings, so you can engage them, you speak with them, you speak the same language. Don't ever be scared of journalists. Try to build a relationship with them. And of course, plan in advance. When you're at development stage, you're going to probably talk a bit more later, but you need to start from the beginning. Yes, you're developing a game, but then you have to support your ideas. So just put a bit of thought at the beginning, from the moment you have the concept of your game, to see how you're going to communicate and what. So I think those are quite important things to consider.
Yeah, and I guess to sort of extend those from the journalist's perspective, like both of those points, like in terms of being there, you know, Stefano was saying kind of planning ahead, and you're saying about kind of common sense, and in the end, like I get, when it's not a big conference, I get dozens of emails a day about people who want games, attention for their games, and it'd be lovely to have the time to reply to all of them and look at all of them, but in the end, like you know, I don't want to sound like a lazy sod, but the easier you can make it for us, then the better. So don't hide, but you know, having your contact details there, and you're, you know, not hiding behind a brand and kind of making your website cryptic. Like if I can just get all the information I need, which we can come back to, like I think it's so weird to recite something from when I was doing like A-level media studies in the mid-90s, but it was like a press release and that kind of thing is giving a journalist everything they need for a story. And I won't go into too much detail now, but look at stories and you'll see what's needed. Quotes, basic information about the company. You're probably all aware of Press Kit by now, and if you're not, just look for Press Kit and the kind of template that Press Kit provides, whether you're using Press Kit or doing it on your own website, that's what we need. And sorry, I'll give this back to you in a bit, Chris. That very thing about getting in early is, if I think about the journalist side, the developers I write about, often they've started engaging with me before we've even talked about their game or even games. It might be on social media when I'm banging on about music or skateboarding or board games. Someone starts having a conversation with me about board games, and 6 months later when they've got their game to talk about, instead of it just being a random game name from the stranger, it's someone I've engaged with before. So kind of having a presence that isn't even anything to do with your game early is a really great way of making us know who you are when it comes to telling us about the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, I might chip in a little bit.
One thing that I get a lot are emails from developers, mostly via our contact submission form, that says, I've got an iOS game, would you like a review code? Would you like to write about it? I rarely write about iOS games, and I never review anything for MCV anyway. But I do write about studios. So if that person had come to me and said, I've got a new studio, we're doing all this cool stuff, would you be interested in writing about it? The answer is yes. But if they come to me with that regional email, it's a good chance I'll leave it unread for a while. I might reply to it if I get the time, depending on how busy my life is. So know your publication, know who you're talking to, don't necessarily just blanket out press releases to everybody anyway. That's my tip into it. I mean, you talked about don't be weird, and you said you like weird. What characteristics are good for a developer?
I feel I've been hooking this already.
So what characteristics are...
This is difficult for you, but I mean, what's a good characteristic for you to develop? What's attractive to
Just like be interesting and be yourself, really. I mean, we do media training for developers, and that's what we say to them. We just say, you know, if you kind of, your personality comes across and your like love for what you're doing comes across, and you're natural, that's so much more interesting than talking to someone who's just been media trained and they're a bit weird and they're avoiding things, you know. So I think it, you know, it's the same characteristics that are interesting in life. It's enthusiasm and interest, and you know, yeah, kind of being able to sum up what you're doing it, why you're doing it, why it's great, you know, and to do it simply and sort of, yeah, kind of in a human fashion.
Yeah, I was just, you know, and I guess reviews would be the exception, but most of the writing I do happens to be, like, although I do reviews, happens to be features. And thinking about it, I interview people, I quote people, I put people's names in there. Obviously your game, your studio having a logo and a brand and that kind of thing is important. I'd say don't hide behind that too much, because it's the people that I'm having email conversations with, the people that do the interviews, that kind of thing. Like, I often find it comes across as very cool when you have this kind of, you know, put the brand first and all that kind of thing. But how often do you actually see a website or a magazine or a newspaper print a logo? Or you mentioned the company name once, maybe twice. So yeah, being, and again, it matches back to us games journalists. One, we're probably all people that would really feel far more satisfied in life if we were making games rather than writing about them, but we're too incompetent to do that. But like, we love what you guys do, and we want to engage with you, and we're enthusiastic about what you do. So yeah, have I guess, you know, weirdness is how long is a piece of string, right? But have personality and character and your enthusiasm, because it's kind of what we at least engage with and we use when we're putting flavour and making it it's readable.
One thing is also really important, and don't underestimate yourself and your story, how you get into games, why you decide to get into games. It happens to me recently to speak with the developers, and his story about how he decided to develop this particular game is really interesting, and he's probably going to allow him to come out a bit more on top of the idea of the game. So never underestimate yourself. Doesn't matter what is your full-time job. When you speak with media, tell your story, because basically media are gonna see a particular angle that you cannot see, and where people like Caroline and me can help you to understand. There is people that left the country, like I'm Italian by the way, if you don't hear from the accent, but left the country and then moved to the UK or to the US, and then decided to develop a game. When they tell this story to a journalist, maybe the journalist is doing a research about creating business abroad. You never know. So never underestimate yourself and your story.
We had a good example of that. We had a guy who made the Escapist called Chris, and he's a roofer. And I love that story.
Yeah.
And I just like telling to tell everyone because it's lovely. You know, they did really well, sold, you know, loads all over Europe and America. And you know, and everyone who interviewed him just kind of like, oh yeah, that's amazing, that's really cool.
Yeah, and to extend that, yeah, like whatever your experience, you are an expert in that, and that's why I was pressed to go to you, because you know about it. Like, if you've been making games for a week and released something, then you're an expert in what it's like to only have known about games for a week. That's kind of like exaggerating by way of example, but whatever your story is, it's almost like, obviously people make fantastically diverse and distinct games, but there's almost as much chance that your story as a developer is possibly even more distinct and diverse than your game. So don't feel, you know, that's not all I write about, certainly, but that's certainly what makes my ears prick up. Like when you say, like Chris being a roofer, it's like, well, that's a wicked story. And I guess, just have a look at the way different publications cover games, and you'll see, you know, you don't need to be a journalist or a PR to see the kind of stuff that gets coverage. Which kind of links back to what Chris said about being targeted. Like, you can send out an email to 600 people one at a time, but if you contact me in a slightly different way from how you contact Chris, that might have taken a little bit more effort, but if you get more coverage, if you manage to contact 10 journalists that way and got 5 bits of coverage compared to sending out 600 blank emails and getting 2 bits of coverage, sometimes it can be better. So look at the journalists, you know, you don't have to do too much research, but look at the last few things they've written about, and look at those publications and how, you know, we both do reviews for The Observer, and the amount of times I get people pitching me things like, will I cover their games on Kickstarter in that space? It's like, well, that's a reviews page, so kind of, you can slow down.
Well, you can keep them a mic. This is more for Caroline's thing. You guys are used to working games with massive budgets, I know you have. You've also done some smaller titles as well, and come again. And when there's only 2. What do you think is the best way to sort of push your game out there when you don't have much resource, which most of you don't have?
I think you've got an advantage really, going back to what Will was saying about, you know, sometimes, you know, if you're a journalist, it's a bit of an eye roll if you've got to do, you know, kind of another AAA, massive, you know, blah blah. You know, those games have been out 5 times already. So sometimes you go with an indie game, it's really interesting. You can be creative. You know, you don't have to run things through 72 lawyers in LA before you do something. So particularly fun, you can have personality, you've got social media now, some massive sort of tool for you guys to use. So your disadvantages can be your advantages. So your lack of budget, don't worry about that because you've got creativity on your side. And think about what's interesting about your game and talk about that. And you can talk about it in an interesting way. It's kind of easy and cheap to do viral videos and to do stuff on Twitter and approaching people on YouTube. We've got massive YouTubers to do things for free because they like the game. In fact, the only thing we've ever got on PewDiePie did completely for free because he loved the game, because it was a bit of a crazy game, So, I'm sure people like Ubisoft would be like, how do you get PewDiePie, how do you get PewDiePie? And, the answer to that was, he just loved the game, So, don't be kind of held back by budgets, because, think of it as an advantage. You're nimble and interesting. But big budget stuff too.
Well, I think another advantage you guys got, as to underline what Karen said, you are agile. You can speak, you can be really quick, and most of the time media gonna react very well. As I say, budget is not everything. Creativity is the key, and your idea. If you can summarize, again, being concise, and summarize the idea of your game to media, they're gonna react well. They're gonna give you honest feedback. So I think the agility is, and the lack of budget is not a down thing. It's not a negative thing at all.
Just to add to that really briefly, like if you guys can't afford some glitzy venue that's going to cost you thousands of pounds, if you go and do an event in your local pub, that will almost have an angle to it, perhaps appeal to us journalists more than some big fancy event. You really can, I don't know, you're making a game that has to be about the countryside, you probably do it in your local park. And in Indy you get away with that, whereas the huge companies will end up having to rent off the space for the council and this, that and the other. So you really it's not like, you guys are professionals, right? Being in Indy is still professional, but you can take advantage of how much affection there is for kind of slightly alternative, almost like rock and rollness at the moment, being in Indy. I'm just going to move forward because the rain is and I like to get a shower. I always like to sit in front of you after I'm
well, in a world of Twitter and Twitch and YouTube, does Will even matter? Does the media even matter?
Yes. I mean, this is really funny. Every time something kind of new comes along, it's like, no one watches TV anymore. It's like, of course people watch TV. Everyone kind of like moves on to new things. It's like, this is the thing. No one reads newspapers anymore. People do read newspapers. People do read Eurogames. People do read kind of big traditional games. And they read in their millions. It's just another part of the landscape. So absolutely yes. Gaming media is still important. It's all part of the mix, and if you see a really successful campaign, it's going to be kind of like layered across social media, gaming media, lifestyle, mainstream media. That's a really good campaign right there. So don't kind of get too focused on one thing and be like, well, Twitter's here now, so we're just going to do that. It's all part of of like a bigger picture. So kind of try and kind of touch everywhere really.
Yeah, one thing is important to understand is media. They probably have a bit less relevance than 10 years ago, but they are experts in talking about games. They can set the sentiment of your game, while channels like Twitch, YouTube and social media can create the volume. So you need to integrate your campaign. You speak with media, you speak with YouTubers, you broadcast your game on Twitch, but yeah, everything should be integrated. But media, yes, are still relevant in a different way, fair enough, but they are very relevant. Because bear in mind that giving your games to YouTubers, is not guaranteed that it's going to get coverage, but also it's not guaranteed that this person's got the same passion as you, but it's not necessarily got the same 10 years experience on talking about an idea, specifically where maybe when you're going to show the game to externally, so to media, to YouTuber and Twitch, your game it's likely to be unfinished. So it's going to got bugs inside, it's going to get glitches. You need to consider that when you target people. So if you go to Will, I know that Will is a very experienced journalist and can pinpoint those things. If you go to an audience like YouTubers or more community, or you want to show a video on Facebook or Kickstarter, whatever, you have to create a caveat and explain to the people what you actually want to show it. So those elements go all together and create an organic campaign, basically.
I guess, yeah, like I would not, if you can get big YouTubers or any YouTubers to cover your game, great, because the more people that are seeing your game, the better. And I don't feel it's my place as a journalist to go, but we are really important, I said. But you know, you do, but we are. No, but you do. I did a relatively small piece not so long ago on, in the last couple of weeks, on a motion capture actor about the actor's perspective of mocapping games. And he emailed me afterwards to say, oh thanks, that was wicked to have the coverage, and said, oh, and Discovery Channel called me up and this YouTuber wants me to do it. So I think it certainly can happen. If anything, the media go to each other. Like, we also use the media to find out about games. So I hope there's a truth to what Stefano's saying, so I need to carry on saying. No, but you must have had relatively similar feedback to when you do an article and they say, oh thanks, so it's like MCV, right, being a business.
Yeah.
That at least does happen. So Matt with a hat on.
I just wanted to add to that, because I think the trouble is we're so used to the amazing kind of numbers we get from kind of ad acquisition, particularly in mobile, which is directly see a link straight from an ad to a purchase. But we forget that we've never really looked at press in that way. Measuring press when I was doing online gaming services was about looking at the sentiment like you described. It was never about the number of effects that it had on sales or usage that day. It was about the 3 or 4 months, it was about 6 months. And we don't measure in that way anymore, and that's why I think we see this kind of idiot kind of response to our press, relevant or not, because we're not counting press in the right time frame. I suspect.
Quite possibly. Well, I mean, we talked about a lot of what the press should do, sort of what developers should do, but what shouldn't they do? What should they avoid doing? When's a bad time to announce a game? When's a bad time to contact the journalist?
Again, common sense, you know what I mean? If it's like kind of, if you're moving into Q4 and EA is just about to get the money hose out and sort of, go to every single media, all the AAA games, you think about it, think about sort of, is every journalist at Gamescom this week, is it Christmas Day? Think about it. Just because I mean, it's hard as well. I mean, sometimes you just got to kind of get out there and release. Okay, I mean, you just have to. You've got to release in Q4. You've got to release in Q4. But just try and have a little bit of common sense. Is there loads of other stuff going on? Is it the World Cup final? And what's going on in the wider world? Is your game? What states the game? Is the game ready? What's all of these things, take them into consideration, and it's your game, and use your common sense. Common sense a lot.
Yeah.
It's because I'm wrong.
Yeah, completely agree with Caroline. And as an example, September, December is where in September basically all the AAA start getting out. October, November, no, never. Every big publisher, they never know how to release the game because they only have 8 weeks, and they always cram the release on the window. Q1, January, February, January quiet, but never October, November. Just leave to the big guns to do that, and as Caroline said, use common sense. Because it's the best things to do.
We've also had sort of, I can't name names, but worked with really good publishers who had like a tennis game, then Miss Wimbledon, stuff like that. It's just like, if your game does tie in something in the real world, try to kind of make sure that it hits when that thing's happening as well.
I guess the other thing would be, and it's really tricky to define how you do this well, but get the volume of your presence right. Like, there are some well-intended game companies and PRs that end up sending you, only if you're a big agency you might have different people sending you different things, but sometimes one person will send you few press releases, sometimes you get more than one press release a day about the same thing, and it's like, imagine, you've got to be present, but I think the way of doing that is being at events, conversing, I keep banging on about Twitter because I waste a lot of time on it, but there's this like kind of shared conversation space where it's open for anyone to join in. You can have presence in other ways, but don't go too far on constantly being there, because it's definitely possible to go blind. Oh, that's what you mean by weird, right.
To clarify.
And the other thing, I guess I'm repeating something I said earlier, but just don't obscure yourself. I need to know how to contact you. I have far more faith if it's a person's name rather than info at email address. And I guess it's common sense, right? When you're contacting a company and you see info at, you think, will that get through to someone? Like contact forms are kind of the same. Like I never quite, to be honest, I've ended up getting work through contact forms before, so it's not impossible. But and just not being I need a person to contact, and I guess the things I need, let's say when you're sending a press release, or it doesn't have to be a press release, an email with an announcement, someone to contact, pictures, quotes, and all the basic information, like the year you were founded, and I won't bother listing them all here now. Go and see what press companies do on their press kit pages, because that has absolutely everything. So, but just, I guess, more information is better than too little. It's just such a pain when you really want to write about a company and you're like, God, I can't find out anything about them apart from a weird 3D logo on their website that's like, So just, I guess, being available. I know you've also got to be making games, and that ultimately should probably be more important than pandering to us lot. But if you can just be responsive, even if it's just like, I'm so busy, I'll get back to you tomorrow, that's better than you not hearing back. And I do all that time, all the time to developers, so it's back.
One more thing, please. One more thing, don't wait too late to speak with externally. Sometimes there is this conception that, okay, you got the game ready, then I start speak. When to build up a campaign, you easily need at least 3 months. And even more sometimes. So don't wait till your game is finished to start talking about your game. Because it's too late and it's gonna delay a lot the process of getting interest and stuff. There's a really important point.
Sorry, I just suddenly thought of one other one, is remember about your value to the press beyond just talking about your game. I often write features that will be about a theme or a trend rather than one specific developer. And I need talking heads then, so if I can reach out to you and get a quote on topic X, then you get a little coverage out of that, but then I also remember you as someone who's kind of responsive and helpful, and I wouldn't want to say I owe you anything or things like that, but the journalists, the developers that are just generally there are thinking, a really good example is AJ Grand-Scrutton from Dilala. He was just at every event, and that's another thing, you guys can do what we're doing. There's loads of events, and having developers talk on stage, those are opportunities where you can be there standing as an expert. You might even get quoted from that, but also you'll just be visible in the industry as someone who can provide quotes and provide information. And again, whatever you know, even if you've been just making games for a week, you're an expert in making games for a week. AJ from Dilala, he was doing talks at events, he was at every event, he was friendly and sociable on Twitter, and when I was writing an article about using a particular tool, as a hypothetical example, he was immediately responsive, and I said, oh, you're making a game using Engine X, could I have a quote from you? And actually, now I think about it, I don't know if I've ever actually reviewed one of his games, but he's been someone, he's someone on my radar, because I'm talking about him now as someone that can be there with quotes and insights. So even you guys are of value to us and can get coverage from even at the times when you're not just talking about specifically your game.
Right, we're actually out of time, but I'm going to throw them up to some questions. Does anyone have any? Up to the panel? Anyone?
It's either really good or really fast.
Yeah, exactly.
you overloaded them before. No questions? Oh, you do?
I always have a question.
Can we have a figure roll then?
I do have to. Would you like a figure roll?
Maybe later.
Go with the figure rolls and the snowmen. Hence my question is going to be, you were kind of clarifying, I like the fact that you You bend backwards and forwards a bit. I've got a winter-themed game.
Release it in winter.
Exactly. Like you say, those sorts of things, they pretty much have to happen at that time.
Yeah.
Are there things one can do to overcome those sorts of things?
I think it's really hard. Like, I mean, we're talking about a lot of football, sort of various football games at the moment. And you know, you've just got to realise that there's a window to talk about football. It's kind of end of July when men basically haven't been able to talk about football for about 3 seconds, and they're all dying to talk about football again. You know, so you kind of, you know, the season starts on the 8th of August. So there's just this window when the media want to talk about football. And the window beforehand is perfect because when football's happening, sorry, I've probably hit my phone, so I'm so loud. When football's happening, it's almost too late. So that's kind of that sort of example of a really perfect window to talk about football things. If you're doing kind of like wintry things, then you kind of want, I think it needs to be kind of winter outside. You know, the media want to talk about, you know, well, the British media love to talk about weather, so that's a great kind of hook for you. You know, cats, weather, you know, these are the things that we talk about. So, yeah, I think it's kind of hard. It's like, you know, when you hear like a Christmas song in summer and you go, oh no, it's just wrong. So I think there are times and places that we want things to slot into, you know. Yeah. Sorry, is he ready to release in the summer, by any chance?
I'll stick some like swimming trunks on now. Then
yeah, but you can do that. The whole, the whole seasonal content thing is really. I guess this isn't really a press thing, but one, because of people getting devices as presents on Christmas Day, there's this. I don't know the stats, but there's going to be huge spikes. And two, you can, you know, seasonal content. What's the Subway Surfers? They've managed to do they've made a real success out of that game by doing kind of things that are almost contrary to the character of the game, but seasonal or related to events. So there are ways around it. And I guess possibly if the theme of your game is forcing you to release at a busy time, then one of the potential things to do is consider where the audiences are in publications that aren't obviously gaming publications. Like I've said it before, like maybe if you're making a game about birds and bird watching, then there's bird watching magazines that might never normally cover games, but might have a hugely relevant audience, right? Maybe they're reaching 1/10 of the people of a games magazine, but all those people are into your subject matter. Yeah. And also they're really going to be open to the novelty of writing about a game when they're not at all a publication. I know the Total War series at one point was getting loads and loads of stuff from military history magazines. So I don't quite know the example, but you know, nature magazines would be writing about winter, you know, something like that. So, and in fact, that works all year round as well, is that publications that aren't gaming publications write about games these days, and there's opportunities for journalists that aren't bombarded with game stuff, and if smaller audiences, still potentially more meaningful ones.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a really good point. Thinking about who is your audience, especially if you do something that is not the usual first-person shooter and stuff. Think about verticals. So, say who's gonna play your game, and they say, oh, May 1834. Thank you. It's how many millions of people? You need to try to think about who is your audience, and then go and prioritize the media that's gonna read it. So this is the vertical. I did a bit of research like 3 years ago about eating verticals, and yes, they are smaller, but you don't need to just eating volumes. You need to have to eating the people that want to play your game. So if you think it's not just a first-person shooter, for example, try to dig a bit more and maybe use your community to get, oh guys, what do you think about that, using Facebook, social media. Then you start profiling these people that is following you, and then you can get to the point where, okay, now I know this publication, they're small, but they actually people that are going to buy my game.
Right, thank you very much, panel. Wonderful.
Take that back.
Thank you guys. Sorry for being rained on. Wonderful work. Thanks to the team.